If you want less impact by a reduction of insurance reimbursements, or you want less impact by hospital systems gathering up referral networks, you need to build that moat around your practice. And understanding the throughput and where you possibly have constraints is super important. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Physician Growth Accelerator, a show where we break down your medical practice vitals into systems, give you the tools needed to diagnose root cause of what may be restricting your growth, and most importantly, prescribe what the heck to do about it. I'm Zed Williamson, your host, and I've spent the last couple decades studying human behavior and taking those learnings, working with hundreds of private medical practices to create predictable growth. Human behavior, you say, questioningly, with a little intonation at the end? Yes, here's why. So I believe every system is perfectly designed to get the result it gets. Why does that matter? We don't have to like the outcome, but owning the fact that we created it in some way on purpose gives us a lot of power to affect our future and our destiny. Humans, that's what we are. There's a lot of us, and we are all part of these systems. And being able to affect human behavior change is the key. Now, today we're going to talk about a section of vitals called the decision vitals of your practice, and specifically to them, the pain vital and the behavior change vital. Now, you may ask yourself, okay, Zed, is this the most important stuff? Do I have to pay extra attention to what you're talking about today? That's actually not the right question, and I'll explain why. So let's pretend you're underwater, a few feet down, but you've got some straws connected to each other so you could breathe. And these are nice big straws like McDonald's straws, or have you ever had that boba tea stuff where you can have the tapioca ball come through? Gigantic straws, super easy to breathe through. Imagine 3 or 4 of them stacked up, and you can chill out underwater, fish are going by, easy to breathe, right? Then I go in and I swap one of your straws with a coffee straw. Whoops. Feels a little bit different, right? What I've done is I've added constraint. Now, it doesn't matter that big fancy boba tea straw let a lot of air through before or after the coffee straw. That coffee straw affected the entire system. It's the same as your private medical practice business. A constraint, no matter where it is, affects the total throughput. And why do we care about that? You need a healthy business. I'm going to assume that anyone listening to this podcast, we're just going to assume that clinical care is number one. We're going to treat all the patients. We're going to help everyone the best we can, and that is number one. For you to be able to do that, you have to have a healthy business. If you want to stay independent, you have to be able to create a moat around that healthy business. If you want less impact by a reduction of insurance reimbursements, or you want less impact by hospital systems gathering up referral networks, you need to build that moat around your practice. And understanding the throughput and where you possibly have constraints is super important. So today, decision vitals. Now, what's going to feel a little bit strange is the first two we're going to talk about, pain and behavior change. Both of these things happen outside of your practice. Okay, Zed, so why the heck are we talking about things that happen outside of your practice? Well, again, every system is perfectly designed to get the result it gets, and most things are known. And what happens is we tend to avoid the things that aren't in front of us because it might be a little uncomfortable, when in reality, because they're known, that means we can affect change. And if we can affect change, then we can tweak our system to create a better outcome. So let's dive into the pain vital. How would you know that this is a constraint within your practice? Well, the simple question that we like to ask are patients seeking help? Now, if the answer is just blanketly, yes, then this vital is good. But a lot of patients don't seek help. This is what we refer to as the untapped addressable market. This is a gigantic group of patients who they're dealing with something, but they don't even realize it. And so what that can sound like is a patient thinking that they're just supposed to live that way. Maybe they faded into the symptoms. It was a little bit frustrating in the beginning and it got worse and worse and worse, but because it happened over time, they just realized, well, I guess this is normal. I guess this is what comes with getting older. And they fade into it. They believe they're supposed to live that way, so they're not even seeking treatment. It takes so long for them to get somewhere. Now, the first thing that we have to understand is you need to be able to answer this question with a yes. Do you know who your ideal patient is? And let me define that for you. So this is a patient that's dealing with something that you are absolutely confident that you can help with. When you see this patient in the office, you get excited because the symptoms they're talking about, the things they're dealing with, you know that you are lining up to hit it out of the park. They're going to have a great outcome. They're healthy for your practice, meaning if your schedule was full of them, you would have a healthy business, being able to build that moat around your practice. Can you answer this question? Yes. Do you know exactly who your most ideal patient is? If the answer is no, your first prescription from today's show is to find that out. And this is just a little bit of reflection. Who is that patient that you absolutely love to see? When you see a day full of them on the schedule, you're excited. It doesn't feel as much like a grind as some of the other days. How do you know that you don't know your ideal patient? Maybe you feel like you are just overwhelmed. You're starting early, staying late. You feel like you can never catch up. You're a little bit more concerned about the fluctuation of insurance reimbursements. Maybe you're a little bit more concerned about being able to find and keep really good staff. Those are signs that you're not truly aware of who your ideal patient is. So just get that done. Figure it out. Understand who is the best patient for your practice. That doesn't mean we're going to ignore other patients, but we need to know that one. And if you do know that one ideal patient, can you say to yourself that because of you, you are helping those patients be aware that there's a solution? Can you say yes to that statement? I influence patients and help them become aware that they have something that I can fix. If you can't make that statement, there's probably two reasons. It could be that these patients are stuck in primary care and referrals aren't getting to you, or they get to you entirely too late. And there's something tricky about referrals. It's kind of a scary statistic, but only 35% of patients who are referred by primary care actually make it to the practice. So primary care refers 100 patients to you, 35 shows up. That's what percent means, but you get it. It's not a great, huge number of patients that make it through. So what can you do to affect that? Well, we're going to go back to that word ideal. Who is the most ideal practice to refer patients to you? Meaning the type of patients that are coming from them. And then what are you doing to affect that specific outcome? Are you educating those referrals or the referring physicians to truly understand how you help patients? Because the same unawareness that can exist in patients can also exist in primary care. I mean, their day is slammed. They don't necessarily have a ton of time to absolutely uncover what the options are for their patients. So you got to take control of that. So what that sounds like is not telling someone how fancy you are. That doesn't go very well. If you can understand what the challenges are for that referring physician and see if you can help that specific scenario. What they do like is they like referring patients places that help the patients. They like that a lot. And can you communicate back to that referring physician the outcomes of those patients? They love that. And I'm going to give you a little tactic. This works so well. This is something you honestly should write down. Have someone in your office go get a big stack of blank thank you cards. And you might be thinking to yourself, I know what you're going to say, Zed, write a thank you card. That's not what I'm going to say. So tune in, write this down. You see a patient that was referred to you. You've finished treatment and they're feeling great. They love you. You have changed their life. They're saying things like, man, I wish I would have come here sooner. Really good signs that this is the time to bring out one of those thank you cards. You hand the thank you card to the patient and you ask them to write a thank you to the physician that referred them. Have them address the envelope. Let them know you'll take care of it, but we all know physicians appreciate hearing from their patients. Now imagine, just put yourself in the shoes of that primary care physician, and they get a letter from a patient thanking them for referring them to you. That's very powerful. Easy system to put in place, and you are truly affecting change in regards to what patients come into your practice. Now, if your business is not affected as much by referrals, meaning you basically rely on patients coming to you, then are you educating patients to help them become aware of what's going on? And I want to kind of define awareness. So a lot of people know things, right? But we do not make decisions logically. We do not make decisions because I know something. We have to become aware of how it affects us. And those patients that they're frustrated because they're just dealing with this and they think they're supposed to live that way. You have to communicate to them in a way that helps them understand that you get it. And that messaging can be advertising. It could be messaging on your website. It could be social media. It could be any interaction with the public that helps them understand who it is that you truly help and that you understand what they're dealing with. The knowledge of referral as a percentage is also a key here. So if you look at your practice schedule and it is a huge percent referral, then just keep in mind that you are likely not changing the awareness of that ideal patient, because what they're doing is they're seeing you way down the line because they had to go to primary care. They probably went to primary care for a while before they got to you. So it's just be aware and realize that you can affect change in things that happen outside of your office. If we go to the next vital is the behavior change vital. And a question that we would ask is the patient motivated to change? So now they know this patient is aware. They have an understanding that they are dealing with an issue. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're motivated to change yet. If they are thinking the wrong thing about treatment, it can get in their way. What does that mean? Well, imagine, let's say, a big auditorium full of thousands of people, and I was on stage handing out free CPAP machines. How many people are going, yeah, give me one. I want a free CPAP? Probably not that many. That's because they have a bias towards the treatment. And when I say bias, let me clarify. So the brain is built to survive, and we have these little automatic decision machines, bias and heuristics, things that jump in and say, hey, here's the stuff that keeps us safe. And what's interesting is patients can be dealing with something like sleep apnea, which we all know is really bad for your health. Logically, we know that. But they have a belief about the treatment that they're actually saying is worse than what they're dealing with. And that keeps them from taking action. So what do you do about it? Well, we have to have messaging that helps people understand that there is something better for them. And so let's say you advertise. Let's say, for instance, you have a billboard. Let's say you're a urology practice with a billboard. And the typical thing you tend to see is here's some physicians, their picture kind of standing there, look at me, I've got a white coat, and it's urology practice. So I want you to think about the patient that drives by that billboard. Think of the reality that must exist for that to influence their behavior. They're driving, oh man, look at that. Look at that medical practice. They've got doctors, and those doctors have coats. I should go there. I know it's kind of silly, but that's not happening. You have to connect with the patient emotionally about what they're dealing with. They know they have a problem, but they have a wrong belief about what the treatment for that problem is. Or they have a wrong belief about themselves, that maybe this problem isn't that bad. So when you do any kind of messaging that goes outside of your office, it can't be about you. That's not how we're built. If you remember the old baseball movie with the quote, if you build it, they will come. In business, it's when you build it, no one cares. So a billboard that just has your practice name and pictures, no one cares. If you run other advertising and you're talking about your practice and the expertise and all of that, it's falling to deaf ears. Our brain is designed to pay attention to things that matter to us. There's something specific called the reticular activating system, or the RAS. It's like a no trespassing sign to consciousness. Chances are, if you've driven anywhere today, you don't remember a single car that you passed or followed. And if you're telling me in your mind right now, oh, yes, I did, it's because you passed a police officer too fast, or you saw a car that reminded you of something from your history, maybe childhood, friends. Otherwise, your RAS just goes, nope, not important, leaving it off the brain. Well, that's what happens with all humans, because we all got that RAS. And those patients that even they know they have a problem, when you just talk about yourself, it doesn't connect emotionally. And so they ignore you. And it's actually a really cool part of the brain. If you go back from evolutionary standpoint, think back to this ancient tribal family, okay? And you've got the husband, and let's say he made the kill for that week, and he's going to prep it for the family to eat. The wife is down by the river. She's beating the hide, and the kids are playing in the river. So there's the sounds of splashing water. There's, she's smacking the hide, so there's that sound. He's got smells. His feet are against the ground. The sun's hitting his shoulders. All these sensory inputs, right? All this stuff is going on. He hears a single footstep that's heavy in leaves, and he comes to attention immediately. That's his RAS telling him he's about to be eaten. And that's the value of it. But today we have all this stuff going on. For you to be able to break through, the messaging can't be about you. It has to connect emotionally to the patient. They have to realize that, man, this person understands me. They get me, and they can help me. And that's how you affect that motivated behavior change. They've become aware of their issue, and they're saying, okay, I'm raising my hand. I want to do something about it. So if you can answer that question, are they motivated to change? And the answer is yes, then that's great. That means that your vitals on the behavior change side are good. But if you advertise and the messaging is about you, if you've got that billboard with you smiling in this superhero pose, that's not going to affect that behavior change. You're not going to help motivate a patient to take action. Now, these two items, like I said, this exists outside of your practice, and it can feel a little bit strange thinking about, well, how do I truly affect that? And the key is to understand what it looks like inside your office of, that this is not going that well. If you're unaware of your ideal patient, if you're showing up and you're seeing all the patients and you're grinding and you have no idea what type of patients are coming in, it can be very valuable, not valuable. Maybe people are booking out way out in the future. You get concerned about insurance reimbursement. Is it going to go down? You get super concerned about costs going up. Those are the signs that your vitals may not be good in these two specific places, pain and behavior change. And if you ever want to check your vitals of your practice, you can go to physiciangrowthaccelerator.com and click Check My Vitals. And it'll walk you through all of the vitals that matter to the throughput of your practice. You're going back to those straws. You're underwater. You got to breathe. Are any of these straws the coffee straw that restricts throughput into your practice? And just start wrapping your head around the idea that every system is perfectly designed to get the result it gets. There is power in owning that you're creating it on purpose, that you can decide for yourself, I want to create a healthy business that allows me to treat more patients, and I'm building a moat around your practice. I hope this was helpful. If you ever have questions, always feel free to reach out to us at thephysiciangrowthaccelerator.com. We'll see you next time.